Hello, I'm Ren, Explain Cardadex, or Connor, and welcome back to Enshrouded Buildings. This is going to be when we make the barn. As you can see, we have a few skips things. One of the biggest things I actually did here was make sure to give the goats food because they were starving. Glad I decided to pick that up, and that was such a worthwhile event. I actually had to go out and I think get corn from some of the various places, but I marked this as a point on my map from, I think, one of the previous episodes. Maybe it was Aunt Braylon's episode. But I wanted to get this nice little plot of land because it just looked really nice for the animal stuff. So any sort of animals and things we have are going to this little pasture here, right next to a town that's filled with horrible monstrosities, and there's wolves and everything else is around. In total, I used a grand total of like 700 or 800 clay. Didn't realize how much of that I was going to need, and oh my god, was it a ridiculous amount to be building with. But that's beside the point. I managed to build a whole bunch with it, and it's not bad. I know that I can't really make too curved of a roof because the roof pieces are kind of weird, but in total, I don't think it turned out poorly. I kind of like how it turned out. Which, hopefully, I mean, I ground for, I believe this was maybe 2 hours total building, or at least the video was 2 hours total. Maybe an hour of it was me harvesting clay and extra pieces. But other than that, it was not that bad. I did have to raise the ground a little bit, and it will look a little bit weird, a little bit suspicious as time goes on. But I just like how this wound up. It just kind of fit into place. Well, thank God that there's snapping in this game, and that's why everything fits into place. But that's beside the point. Doing the foundation is just like a straight up cobble, which is pretty alright. I went through multiple day-night cycles, even though I just extended those not too long ago. And look at these walls. I was going to go with something a little bit more red-ish, because, I don't know, for some reason a barn just reminds me of red. For some reason, but I wound up not doing that and instead did this sort of Tudor half-timbered block, which is kind of like one of my most favorite blocks. Ever since I had gotten some little D&D terrain pieces back in the day which had this sort of semblance on them, I just really loved that sort of aesthetic and how it can lead to a little bit more personality on the building because it, I don't know, it just has a whole bunch of braces and all the little clay pieces, those tan spots really pick out from it. Overall, not bad. Not bad at all. I enjoy, and I did enjoy building this for sure. I liked the whole process of it. There was a lot that I was like, I don't know how this is going to look, but I really, I never really know how any of these are going to look. I kind of only have one reference art in my head of what I want or how things are going to wind up. Here I'm just creating a section for where the animals would be, counting them out like you would in Minecraft building, but it was not bad. It was not a little bad. I do replace this grass that's in here with some farmland, and that way it's just dirt, because for some reason, every time I think about a barn, I just think dirt floor, just ground. No, you know, nothing really different from that. And I guess the reason why is because of the barn from Red Dead, the first game, which that, first of all, made a huge impression on me as to cowboy games. But second of all, it really, I guess in my head, that's what I imagine a barn is every time. So... But yeah, I mean, it did turn out pretty all right. Just all that farmland. It's crazy how little farmland you use. I forget about this, but it's just straight up like, as long as you're not placing one block at a time, that's a huge plot of stuff that's just straight up like, yeah, you could use this. It's fine. Just have it, whatever. Which is kind of funny to me. I don't know. I think I edited out all of the grinding, so that way I wouldn't have to deal with it. Luckily, thank God, because that's so much to deal with every single time. But you can see that that ground really takes shape under the stone and everything, like, it definitely feels a little bit more, I don't know, rural to me, I suppose. And then I throw some timber blocks in, so that way I have my pillars set, and I know the distance that those are set as well, so everything's kind of nice and symmetrical. For some reason, a barn has to be, in my head, at least a little bit symmetrical to make sure it's still standing. I don't know why, but maybe it's just my messed up version of my OCD, but it is what it is. And I do put some little decorations and stuff. I don't do too many. I even put a room in here as well for the later part of it, but I didn't really want people living here, mostly just the animals, so that way it wasn't as much of a pain going back and forth. I didn't really want to have to teleport everywhere 24/7. But most likely it's going to be that farm guy. I believe his name was like Fenrir Jr. or something, but he'll go here, and that way the farm lady can have her stuff, and we can make another room in the inn. This roof was by far the most pain in my rear end that any of these roofs probably have been for me. It took a grand total of probably like, what's the best estimate for it? 50% of the time, so like a good 30 minutes are me trying to figure out the roof and where to connect it up at and everything. I am going to give a suggestion here, and I take all my suggestions with a grain of salt. I would really like to be able to leave the ghost of what I'm building there for a second so I can go around the whole thing before I place it, and that way, like, I have an idea as to what it's going to look like. Obviously, that's probably a little bit easier said than coded into any game, but I can't tell you how much I would appreciate being able to play something to see what it even is going to look like before actually having to sit there and deal with it later down the line. Only because building is like a very specific thing. It's all important. It's all the building process. But, I mean, again, I'm sure there's mods. I've never really played with mods on Enshrouded, but maybe there's somebody that did a building mod or something that changes how it's made. But I kind of wanted to go as vanilla as possible for this because it is very particular with how it's set up. Just run through the window every time, take a little nappy, as you would. I was looking at my fell curse, my poor, awful, terrible fell curse. At some point, I need to just go and, like, off camera sit and see if I can't find any of those things to get rid of that dang curse, because, oh my gosh, I sure would like all the time to be able to do things again. But that's beside the point. I can't do that right now. I'm recording so many other games. I'm taking the time out of my day to do all these other things. Maybe at some point I will. Maybe at some point I'll sit there with somebody else while I'm recording and farm up stuff so that way I never have to do it again. That is the only downside of survival games, is having to really go through the limits. I have a buddy of mine actually who I was trying to build here. I don't know why it wasn't letting me build. He's very much like a farmer person. I think it's all of his years playing RuneScape. But it is really funny every time we play just any sort of survival game, just how into the harvesting of materials he gets compared to like everything else he winds up trying to do, which is just funny to me. He did it a lot in Ark, he did it quite a lot in Conan Exiles, but sometimes the joy is that you get to have so many materials that you never have to worry about it again. And don't get me wrong, I did gather materials as well. I mean, hell, all of this has been me gathering my own materials for my own sort of stuff in a game that, I don't know, it feels very much like it's supposed to be multiplayer in a way. I mean, I can't use healing or anything like that because there's no point for me using it unless I could summon minions. Hey, by the way, minion subclass when? I know. I think the closest we have right now is just the animals, but I sure would actually love a minion sort of build. That's just mainly because I like not having to fight. I guess then when I have to fight something, I would have to go and, sword swing and do whatever. Look at all that progress I made. Oh my gosh. It's really looking like a barn now. It's crazy how fast the 500 half-timbered blocks go away, and then also how fast the clay roofing goes away, or the brick roofing, I think it is. It's just funny to me. I should have, actually, one thing that would have been kind of funny to throw in there would be the hook. I know that there's the little grappling hook thing you can make, and it would have been funny to put that on the front of the barn, kind of similar to how old barns have their little front window, so that way you can put a hook and then put stuff at the top of it, which I only recently was learning about, and I think that's such an interesting way of doing things. It's definitely a lot easier than, doing it manually, but that's beside the point. Figuring out where these little pieces need to go so that way I don't wind up messing up my build too much here. And this top roof probably was the one that irked me the most because I didn't really know what I was going to try and do with it. I am, at this point, building... well, first of all, I'm building the barn, but I had probably like a couple months ago, I built a barn in Minecraft, some modded Minecraft. I didn't record any of that, it's just I was playing it with some pals of mine, and I had built just the grand... I might have a picture. If I have a picture, I'll throw it up, but it was probably my favorite thing I've ever done. Because it's just so stupid building a barn in Minecraft. Well, building anything in Minecraft is just kind of funny because it's all just blocks, which is kind of how a lot of people get into their building stuff, Legos or Mega Blocks, or you sit there with the little Lincoln Logs or whatever and go over, build, see what you can create. But it's just funny how that has sort of prepped people to play survival games. Or you throw in 7 Days to Die and stuff like that, and that's basically we're going to build to survive the zombie apocalypse, and you have to figure out what the best way to do that is, which for a time was pyramids, but they destroyed the pyramid meta as far as I'm aware. But I haven't played that game in a year and a half, 2 years, so I knew some guys that really just played the ever-loving everything out of that game. It was pretty rough by the end of it, but there's people like that. Everybody seems to find a balance for what they like. For some reason, this kind of slow, not really methodical, I wouldn't say my style is, but just the slow way of it is a little bit more refreshing for me, because everybody's so quick to finish a game or get things started a one way or another that whenever somebody actually takes the time and sits down in an attempt to understand, by no means do I understand everything, that would be a ridiculous claim, but in an attempt to understand what's going on, it's definitely a lot more refreshing for me at least. Look at that barn, dude. There's actually quite a few things I think about going back through and kind of fixing up on this bad boy. But, I mean, every barn has its own faults. This one is that its fault was built by me. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that's probably the worst fault any of them could have had. Otherwise, it didn't actually turn out that bad. I definitely like the end result of it. The decorations were kind of meh. I didn't really know what to do or how much room I needed to give animals and stuff like that, but it's not like we have many animals right now anyways, and eventually we can build small little pens and stuff on the outskirts. I think I gave myself enough room off the front as well as the sides to build little pieces of decorative fencing and stuff like that, as well as enough room if I needed to build a small little farmhouse that would have all the extra little, we're growing carrots and stuff like that. Which, It's kind of something I want to do at some point. I want to get more into the farming of the game, so that way I don't have to worry about having materials, but I just haven't figured out that part yet. I mess up my wall. No, I got that one right. Okay. I fall down the hole. I put a hole there, and I'm not exactly sure why I did, because I didn't. I don't know. It's just a hole. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was the whole hook thing. I was thinking about it, and so I was like, "Oh, we'll put another hook on the inside, and it'll be fine." But that's never how that works. There we go. I almost fell down the hole again. You saw that little trip. I just looked down at it like I was done. I was finished with it, dude. It's just stuck there. No, but overall, I definitely do like how this game... I just plug it up. I'm tired of it. I do like how this game is set up. And luckily, for the next few parts, we're actually going to be progressing. It's not going to be sort of that same deal where we'll actually be able to upgrade our stuff and finish things up. But like I said before, that'll be a future me problem, really. For some reason, I put that in the floor, which is weird. I don't know why I put all those in the floor. Pretty sure I'm supposed to extend those one up, but I mean, it doesn't super matter. It's a barn. It's going to be whatever. Oh my god, the music. Forgot how weird the music sounds whenever it's sped up, but that's... Oh, it sounds demonic. Anyways, the barn turned out pretty good. I like it. I like how it was managing up and stuff like that. I'm excited to put some of the animals in there. I'm glad I played it not too long ago, which is, I believe, what you saw with Aunt Braylon and that, I think, is recorded after I had built the barn. But I did learn that you can pick up the goats, which I was very pleased with. I just keep falling down. Here's a quick little side preview of it as I return back home and I see if I have more bricks to build more things. Oh, every time trying to build. It's just never enough. It never feels like enough. I wish, and I know this is a little bit cheaty, but I wish there was a setting in the crafting and stuff like that, or a setting for the world that building materials, the amount you get whenever you craft one is 2 times the amount, which would be so nice. It would be... Also, I did dress up like farmer... I forgot what my character's name was in this. Oh, no. Anyways, he's dressed up. He's dressed up like a little farmer, so that way he can build this house properly. It's a little barn house. Technically, a home for animals. I definitely messed up that one side of the building, but that's okay. I do some weird stuff with the roof here because I wanted it to look like it had a bit of a slope, a bit of a little snag before it got finished building. I don't know. It just looked like it would be good. Kind of like how a barn has like 45 to a 25 to I don't know, like a 12 degree or something. I'm not exactly sure what the roof statistics are for a barn, but I know that they have like a slight little dip in them before they get to the finished part of the roof, which I think is, I think it looks nice. I like how that looks, but I don't think I can reproduce it on this because it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit strange. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's about the closest I can get to a little snag. I think everything's a 45 degree. Whereas in, technically you could make a really nice barn in Valheim. That would actually be probably one of the better games to try and make a barn of that same sort of significance. Again, you could do the same with Minecraft, I guess, with slabs and stairs and everything, but it's just not the same, you know? You want less blocky and more diversity in your building. Which I know there's mods that change that, and I didn't like having to deal with those mods in the slightest. But I did make a cool little underground room that was like a portal room. We made lore. We made lore about the different dimensions in the Minecraft mod, but yeah, it was pretty neat. It was almost like we were little scientists. Overall, not a bad little building here. I did learn that if I fall off that roof onto the ground, I die, which is hilarious to me. It's funny that I can get thwacked by the strongest of monsters and I'll lose maybe half my health. But fall damage, you know, Mother Earth is... she's angry at me specifically is what it feels like. Oh, man. And here's that little room for the dude. At some point, I will probably figure all that stuff out. Technically, I could put a second room in there for somebody, but I don't really care to. I kind of just want to keep people in their own little spots. I don't know if he'll have any quests for me as time goes on, and honestly, it is what it is, whether he does or not, but overall, not bad. Not a bad little place. I'm excited for the decorations whenever I start getting to build those. It'll probably take a second though before that comes out. Oh, here comes the music, ready to be discordant again. Every time I forget that I actually do turn the music off sometimes whenever I'm building. Maybe it's because it was updated recently that it turned it back on. I normally do turn the music off on a lot of games or turn the sound of them like way down, only because it sometimes is like a little bit disruptive to me in my brain. Look at that. Look at this little place for the animals to be. Isn't that neat? I like that. I like how these turned out. It was the right amount of ramshackle to proper civilian looking sort of stuff. I put the door in. I was trying to do what I had seen on some doors, which is there's like a little pillar that goes up from the middle of them. But I really didn't want it to look like this, so I wound up just scrapping that idea and giving them 2 big doors, which I'm not sure if they do have larger doors. If they do have larger doors that I could kind of fit in and make it look better, I would do that. But as far as I'm aware, these are the largest doors I can make. It would be cool if you could make like little drawbridge doors and stuff. I wonder if you can. Maybe I just don't know it yet because I haven't gone to some of those places. Look at that! Look at our barn, dude. It's not bad. It's not a bad little barn. At some point I turned my HUD off so you can get a better look at it, but it was not bad looking at all. It definitely serves the barn aesthetic, and there's going to be minimal light that goes in there because of the hill that's just behind it, but that's okay. I'm recording this probably a good week before this comes out, so it is, I don't know why I felt the need to say that, but oh, look at that. Maybe for updates. If something updates or something, just be like, oh, hey, this came out earlier. Anyways, thank you for watching, listening, going about your daily life. I've been Ren, X-Heellllooo, or Connor. This is the barn, baby. We're going to put animals in there at some point. Probably in my free time when I play, I'll throw them in there. But I was trying to figure out how to wave. Hello. Okay. See you later. Take care.